everybody, welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. In this video we're going to be exploring this symbol that's popped up in a couple places on the internet. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video if you end up liking it, hit the notification bell, leave your comments, and especially if you have any additional information or any additional thoughts about this. This video is going to be kind of basic, but I saw this pop up in a Facebook group that I'm part of that talks about the second coming. And I guess it's been noticed that there's this kind of like symbol here that's kind of popped up a few times in the church. So basically what it is, it's like a keyhole type shape, right? In this case right here, there's like the circle up here. This looks like a sun. And then down here, it looks like a triangle or a pyramid or something like that. Let's go over here. It's been pointed out that the top of the conference center has this shape. Like there's this kind of like garden area, and then there's like this here. I don't know about this whole thing, the cosmic mountain and whatever. Maybe Omega Alpha. I don't really like this kind of like imagery. It kind of seems like far out there. I know that there's like a whole kind of like theory out there based on this, and it may or may not be true. I'll probably look into it more, but anyway, here's another look at the conference center. Here's that circle, and then here's the rest of the keyhole part down here. That's like the triangle. So circle, triangle. Here it is again. Of course, this one may not be really intentional, but I don't know, it could be. Here is the Salt Lake Temple after the renovation is done. This is going to be that part that I've talked about in other videos, that this part in front of the church office building and between the administration building, that's going to be kind of like incorporated into Temple Square, and you can see the kind of keyhole type thing here. Now this is like an oval actually, but still, I guess that counts. And then here's like the pathway. So I don't know, that may or may not be a thing. And then yeah, of course, the baptismal fonts in the temple. Now, the idea here, I think, just like this is probably the whole idea, is like you walk on this pathway, and sometimes it's kind of like depicted as like a mountain or like ascending up, and then going into this circle, which we know that circles represent kind of like perfection, eternity, which I guess that would be pretty fitting, right? Because like when we're on the covenant path, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to reach eternity, reach the presence of God. We know that God is like, he's above time, it would seem like, because he says that all time is before him. So I don't think that time works the same way where God is at. And once we are done with this life. Here's another one. Here's I can't remember the name of the temple, but this is Hawaii. And so you have the same kind of thing here. Now, it's interesting because this reminds me of and I think that if I should have looked this up first, but I think that the whole thing with like reflecting pools and water, it hails back to Ezekiel 47, talking about water coming out from under the temple, and it going to the Dead Sea and healing it. And we know that that's something that like it seems like that's literally going to happen in the case of the Jerusalem temple. That in the last days there's going to be water that comes out and heals the Dead Sea in Israel. But I think there's kind of like a lot to this imagery, actually. So in one sense, it's kind of like a pathway, in a sense, like a pathway back. Well, okay, I'll get into that in just a little bit. Now, interestingly, they have this symbol at the Vatican, although it looks like it's upside down, because this is supposed to be eternity right here, but like unless like they're saying that the starting point is the Vatican, it's not called the Vatican, it's called St. Peter's Basilica, I think. So interesting that they have it kind of like inverted, because it should be for the follower, where they like follow the path and they reach the holy place. But it looks like in this case, is it that they just want it for themselves, like it's them going into the eternities, the portal, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. Okay, I'm gonna skip this, but like there's like Saturn stones that are on the Salt Lake Temple. They don't look like this. This was like a original kind of like concept drawing, but there are Saturn stones where you have like a circle and then a circle around it, but it's more subtle than this. And according to this right here, this is from a New Era article from 1993. The Saturn stones are located directly below the parapet on each side of the 6 towers, they represent Kolob, the dwelling place of God. So I pulled that up because it was part of this thread on Twitter that I was looking at. And then here's the Calgary Temple. Again, you have kind of like this circle around the temple, and I guess kind of like a pathway. It's a little bit weaker in this one, but I don't know. Maybe I don't know if it's intentional or not. I don't know if like it's just looking too far into it. I think maybe it isn't though, because like you have this like Masonic drawing board, or sorry, tracing board right here, and you have the keyhole shape. And I've looked into this kind of stuff before. It's not something that I'm going to cover extensively on this channel, but some of our stuff is based on that, not really based on them, but I think that they preserve some knowledge and stuff through time. So anyway, I'm not going to get into that. And this symbol also shows up interestingly in a show that I keep bringing up on this channel, Stargate. If you watch Stargate SG-1, that's like the primary series, and then they have a breakoff series called Stargate Atlantis, which I feel like has a lot of truth actually in it. Anyway, I would encourage you to check it out, because not only for like the truth that's in it, but also just it's a very, very well written series if you like sci-fi. But you have essentially, if you haven't seen the movie or the series, you have a this Stargate device that creates a wormhole. It's essentially a portal, and then it'll take you to another Stargate in another solar system. And so you kind of like see the symbolism here. You go up this ramp, um, and then you go into the portal, and that does fit pretty well with what we do with the temple, right? Uh, this represents the presence of God. You go through a path, and then you enter into the temple. So, and I'm not saying that any of this is doctrine, so don't think that that's what I'm saying. Um, anyway, it makes me think of Ezekiel chapter 47, where there's a dream and he sees water coming out of the temple. Now, this is a teeny tiny little picture. Let me see if I can zoom in. But essentially, here you have like the temple, I guess, on Mount Zion, and water coming down. And what happens is he gets in the water, and at first it's shallow, but then as he goes further, it gets deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And then it eventually goes, if I remember right, it goes to the Dead Sea. I've wondered at times if this river represents time, because time flows in one direction, and we know that if we go back in time, we find ourselves back in the presence of God. But we're kind of in a predicament, because once we leave his presence and we're in this river, we're no longer inside the temple. We're flowing in time further and further away from the Lord. Which is why I wonder if, like, when Christ talked about being fishers of men, if we're symbolically fish in this river and we're flowing in time, getting further and further away, he has the power to catch us and basically bring us back. It's also interesting that Christ was able to walk on water, so he was not affected by water when he was. Now, this was in the Sea of Galilee, but he was able to walk on the water. So obviously, he wasn't. He didn't have to, or the water didn't affect him the same way that it did for others. And that, of course, because of the atonement. Like, if you take the spiritual component of that, Christ is able to rise up above death, above sin, above time, presumably. Um, so it's interesting. It's interesting stuff. Um, Now, that's not doctrine. That's just something that there might be some stuff out there to kind of support that, but that's just like a thought that I had. That the river coming out of the temple, it's almost like our mortal life and moving further and further away. And the funny thing is that Satan, I think, is part of this, and he just goes further and further away. He's not going to be coming back up. See, because like if we go back to this whole keyhole concept and like having this be like a pathway, in another sense, it's like we want to reverse it. We want to fix ourselves, ourselves out of this predicament, and go back into the presence of God, which Satan will not be able to do. He's just going to keep going further and further and further out, and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into what? Into outer darkness. Now, here's another graphic of it. An interesting thing. Now, I'm just going to close on this note. The movie Tenet that just came out, I think it was last year. It's about time. It's not so much about time travel, but it's about It's kind of like a sci-fi spy movie, but essentially the protagonist, he finds out that there's these people from the future that have found a way to reverse time. You can go in this door, come back out, and then you'll find yourself moving backwards in time. So like from your point of view, if you do that, everyone else looks like they're going backwards, like in reverse, like rewinding. Um, and the point of the movie, now there's spoilers, okay? So if you haven't watched it, then maybe just don't listen to this part. But what happens is the bad guy, he's working for these people in the future that are trying to like strengthen their army and stuff, but he finds out that he has cancer and that he's going to die. And he's of the mentality that if I can't have it, then no one will. And so he finds this device that was invented that could reverse the entire flow of time for all of reality. But if that happens, then everything would go backwards and then it would destroy all of reality. So don't worry about how that's possible. Like that's probably not really based on real physics or very loosely based. But it's interesting because the bad guy in the story, if he represents Satan, um, I just wonder if Satan thinks that in some way he could possibly do that, or he wants, he wishes that he could throw everything back to the starting place and destroy God, essentially. Now, of course, he can't do that, but I think that there might be some symbolism in that movie, just because it has to do with the flow of time and going back and going forward and stuff like that. Anyway, hopefully that's not too far out there for you. I'm going to end it here. Maybe I'll do some more research into this and see if I can find anything else, but I just wanted to point that out to anybody that hasn't seen this yet. I don't know if it is a thing. I'm not going to say that it is, but it is intriguing, if nothing else. Okay, so if you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video if you liked it, hit the notification bell, make sure to leave your comments and share this on your social media with anyone that you think may not have seen this, and I'll talk to you guys later.